That's my birthday, March 26th.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, he was undrafted. But
Yeah, I remember him at Tennessee.
but people get excited about those guys where they think they found like a diamond in the rough, you know. Remember Miles Austin?
Yeah, I remember him.
Dude, Miles Austin had a couple gnarly seasons.
He actually did. I
He
mean,
did.
there's one of these guys every year in New Orleans.
Yeah, he was on the Cowboys.
Yeah, he had a couple good seasons, I believe.
He for sure did. And you know why I remember this? Because I remember playing fantasy football. Yeah, he did. He had back-to-back. He had a 1,300-yard, 11 touchdown season in 2009.
How did you get from Marcus Callaway to Miles Austin?
Wasn't he also undrafted?
I don't remember. I was young.
Well, because I remember around this time, he was undrafted, right? And then he had a monster 1,300-yard season. The following year, he had 1,100-yard season, and then he got hurt. He was never the same. But if you remember around that time, I know how old are you now?
I'm 30.
Oh, you were young then, for sure. All right, but you remember Arian Foster,
Of course.
another undrafted guy that blew up in the preseason, and everyone went, whoa. And then before he got hurt, Arian Foster was a beast in Houston. So it does happen, Matt. There are undrafted guys that just go insane. Sometimes they end up actually having, like, sustaining a career. Most of the time they're flash in the pan, but it happens.
Yeah, there's a couple every year. I mean, trying to think of some in the league right now. It's been a little while since we had like an absolute stud UDFA. A lot of late round picks of it recently, though.
They're out there. I was just thinking about
Coker's one. I mean, he's not a stud, but he's just one I can remember from this year.
Who?
Jalen Coker,
Oh yeah.
not a stud, but he was undrafted.
Those are chat will let us know. They always do.
Lil
There's
Jordan
another one.
Humphrey.
Who?
Lil Jordan Humphrey.
Oh yeah, old little Jordan Humphrey. Yeah, that's a good one. Nah, it'll happen. It always does. Once in a while, you get one or two. Anyway, hey, good afternoon, good evening. Happy to have you with us. Welcome to the Stokastic.com live before lock NFL showdown strategy, or live before lock. So Rough Buff Fire said Victor Cruz. We were just talking about him. I was telling Matt I was at the game in Philly where he tore his ACL. He was the salsa dancer. Our boy Emac said Jake Bobo. Yeah, there's always a few. We got some good football to talk about today. Matt, you know what I do thoroughly enjoy is when we actually have news that happens throughout the day. So we're not just totally repeating ourselves from this morning's show.
We have some. We thought we might get some. It's not what I thought. I thought we were going to get Shepard inactive, but instead we get McMillan, which is more impactful, I think.
I would say so. I mean, you look at last week. Wasn't McMillan up there as a target leader along with Kate Otten? I mean, behind him, but finished with 7 targets on the day, second on the team, tied with Bucky Irving. Yeah. So the fact that Jalen McMillan is out is it sounds crazy. Like we're in week 9 and you and I are sitting here going, man, this Jalen McMillan news is huge on a showdown. Like what? How has it come to this? Like Jalen McMillan being out is seismic.
It's wild we've gotten to this point. But yeah, I mean, coming into the day, if we go back to the strategy show, we were projecting him as the wide receiver one, excluding Otten, of course, and potentially even behind the running backs and targets. But that still opens things up for us even further than they already were. But now we have to project really deep who's going to be the wide receiver one, because we basically have no clues to go on at this point. Very few, at least.
And not just the wide receiver one, but who are going to be the guys. We got like on the field. We got a lot to get into. Hey, if you don't mind, take a single second this evening, atone for your sins, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate every single one of you who help us feed the algorithm here. Help us combat the YouTube overlords, as we used to say. For real, it helps. Every little bit helps. Subscribe to the channel. It is free. And if you hate it, click unsubscribe. You never have to hear from us again. But Yeah, dude, you look at this Tampa team and you go, okay, thank you for atoning, Chris, by the way. You look at this and you see K. Dotton. We know he's going to be out there for like 95 to 100% of snaps. Then you're talking Rashad White, Bucky Irving, combined 26% target share last game. And as I mentioned, that was against an Atlanta team that plays pretty soft. Like they limit you from getting the ball downfield, but they don't have a significant pass rush. This team is dead last in the league in sacks. Going into that game, they had 5 sacks. I don't know what they have now. Oh, good, they have 6. Worse than 6 sacks through 9 weeks, Matt. Like they can't get there, and he still targeted his running backs 26% of the time, 13 targets on 15 attempts. You get past that, you talk about these wide receivers, no Godwin, no Evans, no McMillan. That's Trey Palmer, Sterling Shepard, no Cameron Johnson even. He's on the IR. So it's Ryan Miller, Raheem Jarrett, and they elevated Marquez Callaway to the active roster today. That's what we got.
And they basically never use the second tight end because they don't have one. I'm not even sure, like, K. Dotton is, I don't know. Where would you put him if you were just ranking him starting tight ends? Let's say this is week 1. Where would you say he slots in? Like
Among
15
all
to
tight
20
ends?
in the NFL?
Among all, okay. Wait, this is week 1, but it's this Bucs team. It's a week 9 Bucs team, but it's week 1.
Just go based on talent, like individual talent.
Okay, so we're not going on like DFS value
Yes.
because got you. I'd put him between probably 15 and 20.
That's where I would too. And the point I was trying to make is that's now your pass catcher 1 for this team.
Yeah.
That's how desperate things have gotten for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because of injuries.
So I think we have to start here with the McMillan news, right? And then we'll work our way through everything else because, like, yes, we will spend some time on Kareem Hunt, on Travis Kelce, who I believe to be significantly underpriced today, on Baker Mayfield, Patrick Mahomes. A lot of these are pretty, like, self-explanatory. You play them, but also, what are we getting to a captain? I'm running another Sims right now that we got an update on ownership with this McMillan news. How do you decode the cipher that is Tampa Bay receivers today? Forget about K. Dotton, Tampa Bay receivers, because we have 2 of them projected in that like 7 fantasy point range, with Ryan Miller not being far behind.
It's tough, but I think first and foremost, Trey Palmer is probably your wide receiver 1, just based on routes, snaps, and potentially targets. He's going to play on the perimeter, but he's not on the injury report. Sterling Shepard is, and he was a true game time decision. It had to come down to warmups for him to figure out he was going to play. He was already ahead of Sterling Shepard last week. I know the injury was involved there, but we've also seen him be semi-productive more recently. Going back to last year, he functioned basically as the Bucs wide receiver 3. And even though that's not a role that was voluminous by any means, he was still out there. Sterling Shepard was basically out of the league. So I'm still going to be betting on him to be the wide receiver 1, Shepard probably the 2. The injury brings some doubt into that, but he's just been so far ahead of Jarrett, Miller, these other receivers that they're going to have active today.
It's still got to be okay. So we agree Palmer's 1. I know he's dealing with an injury. I still have to put Shepard 2, though.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I have to. And then after Sterling Shepard, I think I would go, I don't know, Miller and Jarrett. I don't even know if I have, I don't really think I have a strong lean on either side of that, truthfully. I really don't.
I definitely don't have a strong lean. I'm getting through my first sim too, since we got the updated tools. So I'm curious to see where they come in. If it's enough to get me off, like, I don't know, even a portion of my Noah Gray stock. We'll see. But I tentatively think Jarrett might play more than Miller today. They both play the slot, so maybe they just split, which is kind of what happened last week. Miller played a little more, but he also played worse. Jarrett was really efficient on just the 3 targets he had, but he's only been active in 1 game this year, so it's hard, man. You're just guessing at this point, but Jarrett outplaying Miller on the very small sample. Maybe you click his name a little bit more, but we're talking about guys that are just sprinklings in a portfolio if you're running 150. If you're playing just one lineup, I wouldn't even get close to these guys.
Yeah, I don't think you have to. Are you willing to captain any of them? Because I am, believe it or not, getting a little bit of this Ryan Miller character at the captain spot in large field stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I have.
What are those? Can you read me one of them? Because my sim is still finishing. It'll be done in
Oh
like
yeah,
30 seconds.
happily. Sure, sure, sure. Ryan Miller, Baker Mayfield, DeAndre Hopkins, Kareem Hunt, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce.
How many dupes?
One in this one.
Wow.
I ran a 5,000 on the contest
Okay.
generator, not 10,000. I ran five, but still one dupe out of 5,000 on a showdown. It's not that bad.
No, it's actually surprising. But he must be super low owned in the captain.
Oh God, he's got to be virtually unowned at captain. Yeah, you would think.
Yeah, for large field, I don't hate it. You have every single stud in that lineup, so I mean it could be worse. And he would probably, I mean, he would have to just ice Raheem Jarrett probably. And I don't know, even when you captain a guy who's really cheap, you need almost every stud to fail and him to play decent enough to outscore him price adjusted. What do you think that is? Like 10, 12?
Let me see our projection on him just to make sure we don't have anything off here. All right, so we haven't project. I guess I get it. I mean, we haven't projected for 7 fantasy points. The it's not a crazy projection. I'm not really sure who else to go. Right?
Someone has to play the snaps.
That's what I mean. It's not that crazy. Just knowing that you've gotten no Jalen McMillan along with Godwin and Evans, they're probably playing from behind. Baker threw 50 times last game. You can't run on Kansas City. And Miller played 41% of snaps. McMillan played 81%. So, like, if you're projecting Ryan Miller to be the wide receiver 3, but he's the wide receiver 3 among a group of names that are all, like Trey Palmer and Sterling, it's not like, oh man, he's the wide receiver 3, but Palmer's the clear 1 and Shepard's the clear 2. It's like, no, these guys, if this were week 1, Matt, it would have been like Shepard would have been on the couch and Trey Palmer would have been the wide receiver 4.
Let me ask it to you this way, because I agree with everything. And I do think Miller's the most likely wide receiver 3, but I think it carries some risk. He plays the same spot as Jarrett. We just have a minuscule sample of half a game last week, basically, where they both played. Jarrett played less. So we're kind of taking this entire projection and basing it on that very, very small sample. I think that carries risk. Would you rather just play Noah Gray? He projects a little bit less, but there's almost no volatility in his projection. We know exactly what Noah Gray is going to do. There's a massive sample with him. I almost would rather just take the sure, especially in low risk stuff, like just give me Noah Gray.
I have quite a bit of Noah Gray for what it's worth. I do on every showdown.
Me too.
So I'm always going to have Noah Gray. But no, I think it boils down to the fact that, all right, so how many snaps would you project Ryan Miller for today?
Let's say they run like, I don't know, 70 snaps, 40.
So you still have him north of 50%.
Yeah, but then the targets per route, which is the really important stat, I would think he's behind Palmer. I would think he's behind Shepard. He's certainly behind Otten, and he's probably behind both the running backs.
Probably. Probably, yeah. He's also $1,000.
That's true. I don't know. Raw talent, I don't think this guy is anything that's going to stick around in a roster. He's an FCS player.
I don't feel good about it. I'm just trying to think of how, you get there, and it's really just that he's going to be on the field and he's basically minimum salary. That's all it comes down to. But no,
it doesn't really help you get that much more. We were talking about it this morning when we thought Noah Gray was the best value on the slate before this news opened up. We were basically building whatever we wanted, even with not having $1,000 option.
Yeah, you don't need him.
You definitely don't need him. Maybe, I don't know, being the risk averse coward that I am, maybe I just spread this between the cheap guys, so I'm not overexposed to any single one of them.
Listen, I don't think you're crazy at all. I'm just letting you know. Let's see how much.
His
Yeah, like
prop, it came up in chat for Miller, 2.5 receptions, 27.5 yards. That's a pretty decent prop, especially for a min price guy.
Miller 2.5 receptions, 27.5 yards, minimum salary. What's
But
Noah
that whole
Gray's
thing,
at?
like it's not a normal prop. Everything is based on a tiny, tiny sample.
Of course. Oh yeah, no question. But that's also why, what if he just ends up being the number one? I don't think he will, by the way, but would be pretty crazy. Uh,
I think that would be insane.
yeah, I think it'd be
Like think
pretty.
about the actual. So obviously Godwin Evans hurts a lot, but like you have Bucky Irving, Rashad White's good in the pass game. Otten, I think, is certainly more talented. This guy played at Furman, for goodness sake. Furman. It's
Great school. That's a great
2024.
football school.
It's 2024. This isn't, we were talking about the famous UDFAs from times past. In the current edition of football in college, if you have a pulse, you go and transfer up if you're any good. Before you were restricted and you couldn't do it. A guy that goes to the combine, first thing I'm asking him as a GM is, why the hell didn't you try to play somewhere else? What are you, a coward?
All right, I want to throw this out there to you though, okay?
Okay.
So Sterling Shepard and Trey Palmer both have 2.5 reception props. Now, Ryan Miller's prop is minus 115, minus 120. Shepard and Palmer is juiced a little bit more to the over. Noah Gray's is 2.5, but heavy juice to the under. Noah Gray has a 21.5 receiving prop. You've got a receiving prop of 28.5. I'm seeing in some spots for Ryan Miller. I'm just trying to go through the process of like how we arrive at this. And I know we definitely use props for projections, to guide a lot of that. So Raheem Jarrett, 16.5 yards. Palmer yards, 32, 33.5. He's all over the place. 30. Pinnacle has him at 30. And then Shepard is at 30 and 31, Matt. I mean, these guys are all pretty damn close. They're all like, if you were to just look at Vegas props, they're all pretty much the same player. So I think that's why I'm getting more Miller, because he's cheaper than all of them.
Yeah, I honestly don't disagree with it. The only point I was making, if you're running like one lineup or something, there's a lot of volatility there. Even on like the prop side, they're the most
Definitely.
accurate tools we have. I think
Definitely.
there's less volatility with Gray. And right now in my current run, I got 37% Ryan Miller in the flex. And my Gray exposure, which was much higher this morning, dropped to 16. My plan right now is to smooth that a little bit. And again, that's just a preference to not be overexposed to a UDFA who's played in 2 games out of Furman.
Yeah, that part's really getting you.
Dude, I I watch a lot of college football. I don't know much about this guy.
What do you want to do with Cade Otton?
Play a lot of him. Again, Miller aside, there's so many paths to just playing studs on this slate. We talked about it this morning. Start your lineup with Mahomes, Kelsey, Hunt, and then either Baker or Otton. You'll find it is extremely easy to do that. You can basically play one of the value guys, and then you still have room for someone in the mid price. You can still play like maybe a Bucky Irving, depending on who your really cheap guy is. On DraftKings, there's almost no restrictions to the salary. So for Otton, I don't really see any point in not getting to him. If you fade guys like Otton and Mayfield, you're just sacrificing points. And I'm not sure you're getting enough leverage with it. And our tools indicate the same thing.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, as much as I think that Steve Spagnuolo is just going to do everything he can to clamp down on Otton and be like, okay, Ryan Miller from where's he from? Where'd he go?
Furman.
From Furman. All right, Trey Palmer and Sterling Shepard and Raheem Jarrett. Like, you guys beat us. We're not going to let Cade Otton beat us. Also, Cade much better against zone. Baker was even talking about that the other day. But you're right. The volume's just going to be there. For me, I keep coming back to this like Bucky Irving and Rashad White thing. Bucky Irving was targeted 7 times on 16 routes. I know it's a small sample, but when you go back and actually look, Matt, it's not like he hasn't been productive as a pass catcher. He actually has. He's been highly productive. He's averaging 8.2 yards per reception. He's averaging 5 yards per attempt on the ground. He has been the more efficient back. Now, Rachaad White's a great pass catching back, but it looks like who's their offensive coordinator? Liam Cohen,
Liam Cohn.
right? Liam Cohen. It seems like he just wants to use the Liam Cohen. Seems like he just wants to use these guys as much as he can, and I think they're going to need to today. But as I mentioned to you earlier in the show, or sorry, on the strategy show, I'm very much okay just kind of getting around the field on these guys because I don't have a hard stance or a lean for which one of them is just going to be better.
And I think that's just going to come down to efficiency in the game. When you're projecting their roles, I think it is mostly a 50-50 timeshare, call it 45-45. Sean Tucker, he takes the rest of whatever's left. But I don't think they're going to work Bucky Irving ahead of Rachaad White because of that toe injury. Everything coming out of Tampa Bay all week is that he's going to be dealing with this all season. It's entirely load management. And yeah, Rachaad White's not as efficient, but he's reliable out there. He's not someone who's going to cost you the game, fumble the ball. He's excellent in pass protection. And when you're just trying to limit a guy, I think it limits the overall ceiling for snaps and routes and carries. So he needs to get there on efficiency, which he can certainly do, but there's as much downside there as there is upside, which leads me to the same conclusion as you. I don't want to be out overexposed to either one of these backs when I think they're largely going to split this backfield. It's exactly what they did last week too.
I think the only reason I'm less concerned about Irving than you is because this is the same toe injury that he had before last game against Atlanta. And he still ended like, okay, what if the fact that he was targeted 7 times on 16 routes run wasn't actually a mirage, but that is their way of keeping him healthier? They're saying, all right, listen, you're not going to play 55, 60% of snaps. We'll get you out there for 40% of snaps. He played 32 snaps and he touched the ball on 16 of them, 16 of 31, right? Because he had the same practice regimen last week. He didn't practice at all, and then he got a limited practice on like Friday or Saturday or something, and then he played. So I don't see why it would be any different this week.
I don't think it is. The point I was trying to make is I don't think there's a ceiling beyond that.
Got you. Like, okay, so you're saying you got it. Okay. I misunderstood what you were saying. You're saying you don't see there ever being a position where it's like, oh, Bucky Irving played 70% of snaps today. Totally agree. Totally agree. Yeah. But I think the volume touch-wise is still enough to where you can't just look at Rachaad White and be like, man, he's the clear better option over Bucky Irving.
Oh, 100% agree.
Makes it tough.
We're in complete agreement with this.
Who else have we not? I mean, we'll get to kickers and defense and all that stuff and get into some of these exposures. Like, all right, so let me see some exposures on this current run. My captain exposure has not changed. It's still Travis Kelce I'm getting the most of at captain for sure. Followed by Mahomes and Kareem Hunt. How do you feel about that Mahomes ownership at captain? He really has not provided a ton of upside over the last 2 seasons.
No, he hasn't. Honestly, I was surprised that I was getting so much of him this morning, even considering the ownership. But then I started building lineups and I started running. I was building them by hand and running them through the single lineup simulator. And I kept trying to jam in these value guys and expecting to land somewhere in the mid range. And then suddenly, I have like 10K left and it's like, why don't you just play Mahomes? Even though he's had a bad season, it's kind of a tough slate to fade a guy like this because you need someone that's going to score more raw points because you just have the salary to get up there. So do you go down to a pass catcher, DeAndre Hopkins in his second game? Do you play like a Xavier Worthy in hopes that he's more involved or maybe just more efficient? All those are kind of pretty big dart throws and stands to take where I just don't see a reason to get away from Mahomes even at the ownership. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. You're foregoing a lot of projection.
Including at captain?
At captain, I think you could reduce him, play more Hunt, maybe play more Baker if you wanted. But if you're running one, or I mean, if you're playing one lineup or 20 lineups, you can always make that stand. But if you're running 150, I just don't know if you can build enough lineups in general with those other captains where you can have a big fade on Mahomes. You could certainly come in under the field. One thing I've done is deboost him a little bit to try to get my Kareem Hunt exposure up with just the way this game could play out, as Kansas City nearly favored by 10 points and Kareem Hunt barely sharing any work at this point. That's a choice you could make and one I have made. But getting crazy with it, I think, would be a little like you just run out of good lineups to build, I think.
This is one of the days where I actually don't mind Mahomes a captain. Like
Which is wild.
I know. I'd feel differently if Godwin and Evans were out here and this game could be, yeah, it might be, and maybe they get up early and take the foot off the pedal. But I said it to you this morning when we had one of our, resident clowns in chat. There's only one of them. So I love everybody else here. But the idea that like, oh, you get up early and then you don't score, that's so dumb. Like teams, Matt, even if they're up early, let's say the Chiefs. Do you remember when Mike McDaniel and his team, the Dolphins, slaughtered the Broncos early last season?
Yes.
Or was that 2 seasons ago? Either way, unimportant. But you remember. It was last year because that was Devon Achane and Raheem Mostert game. Even when they started to take their foot off the gas late in the game, now clearly it's an outlier spot. There were like 4 guys that were huge in that game. Even if you bench your starters in the 4th, like the Eagles the other week against the Giants, Hurts still had a big game and Barkley still had 170 rushing yards or whatever it was. To get up that big where you can sit all of your starters comfortably midway through the 4th quarter means you had to have done something through the first 3.5 quarters. So I don't worry about blowouts is what I'm saying if I'm playing an expensive player at quarterback.
No, you absolutely shouldn't. Blowouts can be a very good thing, as you just laid out, for a lot of different players. It would have to be like 6 defensive scores for it to get crazy and not have any of the skill position players do anything, which just isn't happening.
Yeah, pretty much. Who have we not talked about yet for this team?
I think we hit on everyone. The only guy that I haven't really talked about with you is Mayfield. And I don't think there's that much analysis, even with the really bad receivers he'll be throwing to today. He's going to be throwing so many times that it might not matter. And again, it's not Atlanta on the other side like it was last week when Mayfield had 330 yards, but it also took him 50 pass attempts to get there. There's 2 things. One, the efficiency is not going to be as good, just flat out, end of story. But 2, what's different this week? He could easily push 40 attempts in this game. They're projected to be down significantly. Even if Spags has his way, could Baker just backdoor his way into a serviceable game for DFS because of the raw attempts, even if the efficiency is not there? And then you have the salary. You just don't have anyone you can play whoever you want. So it's pretty easy to get to Baker. In addition to Mahomes, Hunt, Kelsey, if we had to decide between them, we'd have more of a conversation. But we don't have to make that decision. It's literally, do you want to play Mayfield or Otten or Mayfield or DeAndre Hopkins? For large tournaments, you can have those conversations. For smaller stuff, Mayfield, I think, is pretty easy.
I'm glad you framed it like that because a lot of times people will look at a game and they just take kind of this one-sided kind of tunnel vision perspective. But last week, if you had looked at that Chiefs and Raiders game and you go, all right, well, sure, on a main slate, none of these guys are getting there, but Gardner Minshew was 24 of 30, 209 yards with 2 touchdowns. Not great, but he would have that would have been probably viable enough, or at least not terrible. And Baker Mayfield is exponentially better than Gardner Minshew. That's what I'm getting at. Jacoby Myers still had 6 for 52 and a touchdown. Like there were guys that still, here's a perfect proxy for all of these other shitbags in Tampa today. DJ Turner had 4 for 28 and a touchdown, Matt. You imagine if you got that from Ryan Miller today?
Honestly, I can't imagine it, but I know it's possible.
But I'm saying his prop is 2.5, slight juice to the over, very slight, probably like, let's say 2.7, 2.6, let's say 2.6. 2.6 and 28 yards. You add a touchdown to that. You say like 3 for 25 and a touchdown. Now you're talking 11, 12 fantasy points at 1,000.
Oh, you need him at that point, or damn near close to it.
What I'm saying is this Tampa team collectively, outside of Kate Otten and the running backs, all the wide receivers, if one of those guys has a good game at their respective price points, by God, you're going to need them.
You absolutely will. I don't know. This is a really tough situation. Really
Yeah, it is.
tough.
But no, I have a lot of Baker right now, and I'm not doing anything to get away. You're not doing anything to get away from Baker, right?
No, I'm not touching Baker. I have 14% captain, which I think is reasonable. And then he's in 52% of the flex.
That looks good to me.
I didn't touch a lot on Tampa Bay. Brought Miller down a little bit, Jarrett up a little bit just to smooth it out a little. But that's about it. I love where I'm at with the backs. The receivers are the receivers. Otten, I think, is, if you don't have a lot of him, or at least a decent amount of him, you're probably leaving too much salary on the table. So yeah, it's not crazy. Those are the only adjustments I made.
I do understand why you're making the adjustment with Miller and Jarrett, by the way, just because there's no real, like, there's nothing to really discern which one of those guys it's going to be. Maybe it'll be neither of them. That's probably in all likelihood what happens.
Well, let's
But
see what. So unencumbered, this was before. I came in with 6% Jarrett flex, and then I came in with 37% Miller in the flex. So it's not like I'm flipping them. I just want it to be a little bit closer, trying to get it in like the 25-10 range. You know?
I think that's fine. Just smooth it out a little bit. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, call it cowardice. Kind of is that. Call it what you want.
Yeah, look, the one I ended up with like 40% Britton Covey the one day, which was half taking a stand and the other half being accidental and rushing because you and I were on a live show and it just happened to work. Uh, but I don't think I'll be doing anything like that today, you know. James said, exactly, James. Laffy, the same shit happens in basketball. I'll never understand why people try to predict this. How do you get to a blowout? Right. Right. And a lot of those starters play into the fourth quarter anyway, so they're finishing that rotation. They just don't come back for the final 6 minutes or so. Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing with football. Malcolm with the super chat. Thank you, sir. Otten or Hopkins on DraftKings? Dude, first of all, tough question because they're not even in the same price tier, but it's clearly Otten.
It's Otten for me too. The only thing I would say is if you're playing the massive tournament today and you wanted to make that switch as your stand, I could see it. DeAndre is another player that's hard to project because we don't know how many snaps he's going to play. If he plays
Definitely.
more,
I just don't think the stand is, I don't think the comparison to Otten and Hopkins is all that close because aren't they way different in price?
it's 7K for Hopkins, 8.4 for Otten.
Oh, okay. All right. Fair enough.
And then the projection difference is about 13 for Otten. It's about 10 and a half, a little bit more for DeAndre Hopkins, which obviously there's some fragility in the Hopkins projection. But I'm with you. Not knowing everything else about the lineup, you know, like what you're playing. Is it cash style game, large field? I agree. Otten's the better play in a vacuum.
Wow. I was setting my uniques when I was favoriting these lineups and coming to find out that like they're even with the weirdness happening with Tampa, there's a very specific type of core that you're going to get to on a slate like this. It's just impossible to get away from.
Are you talking the expensive Chief guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. Like it's an odd slate because you think about it. Like if I set the uniques to 2, I know it's a showdown slate, so I don't go wild with this at all. But if you set your uniques to 2 on a slate where Evans and Godwin and McMillan, like all of those guys were healthy, it would look a lot different. With this one, it's like if you set it to 2, you have to scroll all the way down, even if you favorite 20 lineups to find that 20th lineup. Because so much similarities in these top lineups because there's not much to differentiate, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I still think there's ways you can get around this because we do have a lot of options now. You have two playable running backs in Tampa Bay. You have at least four receivers you can get to. I'm not going to play Callaway. I don't think Callaway sees the field. But then you have multiple tight ends you can use from Kansas City. They always play some dustier receivers, so you could mix those guys in. There's a lot of options even when you do use the core. And then I think there are some leverage points you can pull at the top of lineups. One that I'm doing specifically is bringing Mahomes down just a little bit in favor of Kareem Hunt. You just look at their overall combined ownership right now. We're projecting nearly 83% for Mahomes, 54.5% for Hunt. I think if you even just do something like pulling that a little bit closer in your portfolio, we're flipping it, which is where I'm trying to do. And I'm not doing anything crazy with Mahomes. He's likely where I stand now. He's my third most owned captain, which is doing something small like that to potentially get unique is something you could do if you wanted.
By the way, guys, we talk a lot about the sims, the single lineup tool, single lineup sims on the strategy show as well. If you have yet to take advantage of some of the offers that we have going right now, far and away the best offers that I think we've ever actually done. What do I mean? I'll tell you. If you haven't signed up, Jordan, do me a favor. Don't put up the graphic, put up the site. If you click on the link, it's in the description and it's in the chat, right? It's the first one. Join any sportsbook, get Stokastic Sims for free. That's the core package month. 99, not the week, the month. $99 value. Like, you want to start building some really good lineups, right? Whether it's main slate, showdown slate, whether it's the Germany game. You know what, Matt? You want Greece. I'll give you legitimate Greece. Do you know what the Germany game is this week? Do you know what it is?
I looked at it this morning and now it's escaping me at the top
Giants, Panthers. I can't wait for that game.
That's awesome. I feel bad for the German public that thought they were going to get something sick.
They probably don't know any different though, if we're being honest. Like I wouldn't know any different if it were like rugby or something and I was watching the two worst teams. I'd be like, that's kind of cool, I think. I don't know. I mean, probably.
That's true.
Who knows? Either way, the sims and the single lineup sim, they carry every single slate. Like even the random showdowns on 1 and 4 o'clock, the afternoon, the Sunday night, the Monday night, the Germany game. If you want, go on to any of those sports books, right? Jordan, throw it back up there, right? So you click that link, see those simple steps, click that claim now. This is the only way you can do it. Otherwise we can't find you. Click claim now on any of that. BetMGM, Caesars, Bet365, or if you're in a non-legal state, like a non-legal betting state, any pick'em site, Underdog, Prize Picks, Rebet, you name it, Sleeper, Vivid, all of those. Sign up, deposit, the minimum deposit, place that on whatever you want. I mean, I would do it tonight. You could do a live bet too. So it doesn't matter. Even if you get your lineups in, do it mid-game. And then you go, oh, I got a full month of NFL. I got week 10. I got week 11. I got Thanksgiving in week 12. Yeah. I got week 13 and I did it because I deposited $5 or $10 on any of these sites. So do that. You go to the promos, click claim offer, Bet365 if you're in that state's the best because you get 200 in bonus bets from a $5 bet. BetMGM solid. So is FanDuel if you're not there. Place your bet. The moment it settles, take a screenshot of your settled bet and the screenshot of your welcome email and email it to us at support@stokastic.com and collect that month. Now, here's the kicker. Here's the real sweetener. Let's say you did Caesars, BetMGM, FanDuel, and you wanted to do Bet365 as well. That's 4 months of core for any sports that you want. So no better time right now. Check it out. Join the Discord because it comes with it. And we'll see you guys over there. All right. So let's talk Kansas City. I intentionally didn't leave a ton of time for this, Matt, because Tampa Bay is so much more important. I'm getting a ton of Kelsey at captain. He's my, by the way, link is in the description for that, and Jordan can throw it in chat again. Travis Kelsey, Kareem Hunt, Patrick Mahomes. Currently, if I'm talking about my overall exposures, they are my 3 most exposed players in that order: Kelsey, Hunt, and Patrick Mahomes.
The only thing I did differently than you was give a boost to Kareem Hunt to have him be my most owned. So it goes Kareem Hunt, Kelsey, Mahomes for me. But you were right to do this. There's not really that much to be said, especially about these 3 guys. They're the most involved players for a team that is a massive implied team total as a near 10-point favorite at home against a decimated Tampa Bay team, who we haven't even mentioned this, has not been playing very good defense, especially against the run.
Yeah.
Another reason why I like Kareem Hunt. But yeah, you want a ton of these three guys. How you decide to parse them is a different story. I like getting to Hunt a little bit more than the field. And another good thing about the Sims, if you want to make a stand like this, you're not getting bad Kareem Hunt lineups. So that's a common question, is like, why would you go against the Sims? Well, you're not even really going against the Sims that much. Like, if you want to boost Kareem Hunt just a little bit, the Sims are still giving you good Kareem Hunt lineups.
They're just giving you the best lineups with Kareem Hunt. You're just getting more of them than you would have had.
Exactly.
That's what I think that's the biggest difference between an optimizer and the Sims. With the Sims, if you're doing ROI boosts, all you're doing is taking lineups that were already generated, right, in the contest generator, and then already simmed, and you're just boosting the ROI, the simmed ROI on them. So it's like, say you had a simmed ROI of 80 on one, Matt, and it wasn't getting into your 150. If you boosted Hunt by 15, get that lineup to 95 ROI, now that lineup is in your portfolio. That's how it works. You're not just artificially creating new lineups out of anything. No, these lineups already exist, and they should already be, if not, you're boosting it in a crazy amount. They're already positive ROI lineups.
Yeah, definitely don't do like 100% ROI boost or something like that. That's absolutely nuts. But yeah, that's how I got there.
If I find myself having to do like 100% ROI boost, I'm just adjusting the projection for that player in the team. Like, if I have that much of a stand, right, I want to go back and generate these lineups with more of that player in the actual, like, you know what I'm saying here. That to me is different.
That's special occasions, like when Britton Covey is out running around in pregame warmups when you weren't expecting him to.
Because we wouldn't have gotten any of him otherwise.
Correct.
So I think and the funny thing is, I think we only boosted his projection like a point or a point and a half, and it got me a ton of it.
Yeah, it was an awesome slate.
It wasn't for me, dude. That was the one where I was having an amazing night, and Barkley dropped that pass.
Oh, you had a huge finish. You just didn't finish first, but you would have finished first. Right?
I was chopping for 37 grand, and then finished up like finished up 60 bucks.
I don't know what's worse, when you have a beat like that happened to me earlier this year in college football, or when you have a night where you know you're dead right away. Like yesterday when Olave and Drake London are hurt. I don't know what hurts more. Obviously, you want to win the money, even if it's not the first prize, but
I'd rather,
like the pain might be more with your situation.
I'd rather be dead right away on a showdown slate, not on a main slate. The main slate drags out so long that the pain just is interminable.
That was yesterday, man. When Olave and Drake London, sorry, we don't need to go on this tangent.
No, you're good. You're good. I know. I hear you. I had a ton of them as well. I somehow ended up cashing I think it's because I took a huge stand on Achane, but yes.
They were really owned too.
What's that?
They were both really owned too.
Big time. I had a ton of Olave was my highest owned player on the entire slate. So I hear you. Sucked. In such a good matchup too. Anyway, let's do it like this. All right. Travis Kelce at 8,800. Just love the guy this week. Kareem Hunt, you broke that down. Mahomes, we talked about too. So now the question becomes, what do we do with the Xavier Worthies and the DeAndre Hopkins? Because I think Noah Gray's a perfectly reasonable option. He's going to play a lot. He won't be super involved in the passing game, but he's going to be involved enough to where a 2K price tag, you can make that argument any day of the week. For me, it's the Hopkins and the Xavier Worthy spots that are the most difficult to put my finger on.
Absolutely, for two different reasons, and they kind of interact with each other. One, Worthy had been getting the volume, at least pretty decent volume, and he hadn't really done a lot with it. And then Hopkins, you would think he goes to like at least 50% of the snaps. Could he go to like 75 or something in this game? And I think the answer is yes for him. I mean, they were tied with targets last game, or excuse me, not last game. Xavier Worthy had 8 targets, and he only turned that into 4 for 37. Hopkins had 3 and then went 2 for 29. I think in the long run, Hopkins is going to out-target Worthy just like rest of season. Will it happen today? Is it close enough? Has he been with the team long enough for that to actually be meaningful today? I think there's a chance, which I want to play a little more Hopkins than Worthy because of that. Just with the ceiling, Hopkins as a player He's actually proven it, and he's done it. He was hurt to start the year, so it's hard to evaluate that, but he began to come on in the time where before he was traded with Tennessee. And Worthy, it's just been real situational. He hits like a long screen pass here or there, and he hasn't been getting it done or really separating deep when he's actually been asked to run real wide receiver targets. A lot of the production he's had has been manufactured. So I want to have a little more Hopkins than Worthy, but not come in like zero with both. Right now, Worthy about 15% of lineups. I think that's fine to not be absolutely dead if he does have one of those screen pass touchdowns. Hopkins, I came in just shy of 30%, which I think is fine. And I like that considering he has some untapped upside.
Yeah, my Xavier Worthy exposure is not significant, but I'm also not, well, actually, let's see. I have 21 lineups out of 200 with Xavier Worthy. So
I
not
think
a
it's
lot.
pretty telling that like last year, they didn't do this. They went out after Rashee Rice gets hurt and they're like, we can't possibly move forward with what we have.
Right. Well, I think the other thing about Worthy that I keep running into is that he's, even if he has that screen pass to the house, he's still not cheap. You still need like a good game from him. Like Xavier Worthy could have 5 for 50 and a touchdown, and it doesn't actually mean that you're totally dead without him.
You bring up a good point. He's really close to the studs. Like find the 1,600, you're playing Kareem Hunt. Find 1,400, you're playing Baker. So when you have a projection that low, for at least compared to salary, I would rather just I'll play Ryan Miller if I have to just get the extra salary to go up and make that 2v2 in most lineups.
Yeah, of course. And I have about 45 Hopkins lineups right now. So I actually ended up getting to more DeAndre Hopkins than I thought, Matt.
Yeah, about 30% for me, just shy of that.
What's his prop at? Is he still at like 44? Let's see. 45 and a half, 44 and a half on Pinnacle. It's not even great, but really, what else?
You just know there's upside in it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. When you've got Patrick Mahomes there and you get like, maybe it's the Hopkins game. Yeah. Nick with a super chat. Thanks, Nick. Hunt or Otten? I'm up 124 to 100. Opponent has Kelsey. It's Kareem for me in that spot. Just guaranteed volume.
Yeah, that's the answer for me too. I love Kareem Hunt today.
Yeah.
It's exactly what he said. And then you have nearly 10-point favorites.
Plus, if you're up and he has Kelsey, every time Kareem Hunt touches the ball, Kelsey's not touching the ball.
Yeah, great point.
What else do we have? All right, here we go. Most optimal captain in a single entry 980 full, he's saying. I don't know what full means. He's saying it's full.
I think it's full. Like the full, like all 980 like spots are full. No overlay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean,
I think.
Yeah, that's probably what it means. Well, the Sims would tell you right now it's either Kelsey, Mahomes, or Hunt. And even if I wasn't running Sims and using tools, those are the answers I'd be giving you, especially in a single entry like that. I don't think you need to go insane, Matt.
I'll run it on the back end for some higher stake stuff because it's pretty small.
Yeah, run 1,000 man field, probably 10% the first.
Yeah, it's still going to be one of those three. I'm very curious what the Sims say though. I will let you know. It's running right now.
While we do, see if we have any more. Jordan, did we have any super chats that I missed? Oh, Kevin had one. Member for 13 months. Kevin, sorry, man. I didn't see that earlier. Are you still in here? Maybe not. I hope you are. Not getting to kickers, is that an issue? So one thing we found, Matt, with you and me doing this show over the years, especially now that we released the Sims last year, not getting to a lot of kickers. I assume he's referring to like using the Sims, using the single lineup as far as like how it spits out that feedback. It actually becomes more difficult to get to these kickers when you have a ton of value, and you have a lot of value in those Tampa receivers today.
Yeah, it's exactly that. The projections for these guys are so high compared to the kickers that you don't get as much of them naturally. If you're running 150, I mean, by all means, definitely play some kickers, play some defenses. But for reference, you go down and you look at the projection difference. I'm going to use, where is this guy? I lost my Trey Palmer up here. I was looking for like even Raheem Jarrett, 4.5 points. And then you cross-reference that with Harrison Butker. It's 8.95. So like, look at Ryan Miller. He's 7.09 at 1K. Butker 8.95 at 5.2. You have less than 2 points in projection difference, but a massive salary gap. So just naturally, when you get something like that to open, you're not going to get as much of the kicker. You're sacrificing projection in the overall lineup by playing him over Ryan Miller. And that's just one situation. Did get this sim to run. Do you have a guess who the most owned captain was?
Kelsey.
It was Mahomes. 38%.
Oh, okay. Kelsey's got to be second.
Baker was second.
Okay, so 1,000. So you ran the 1,000 in the contest generator, 10% the first.
Yeah, but it was close, very close between him and Kelsey.
And then Hunt fourth.
Yes, it's basically just an order of projections aside from the Mayfield thing.
Otten fifth.
Kate Otten fifth.
Okay, so there you have it.
Mahomes by a pretty wide margin though. 38%. Yeah, I ran 150 of these just to see like the spread. Mayfield 18, Kelsey 15. A lot of Mahomes though.
Interesting.
He is the highest projected fantasy score. So in a field that small, it's almost like just let the people make mistakes around you to some degree.
They will. People always do. They will. Huh, that's interesting. Brian, Orfield out on his own right now, bodying y'all on live. How's he bodying us? And I like Neil very much. I don't think he'd be doing that.
I wonder if he means he has more viewers, or I don't think he means talking shit.
Neil wouldn't talk shit. We're all buddies.
No, dude. Neil's way too nice to talk shit.
We're all buddies. Yeah. Well, anyway, defenses, Kansas City. This is another one of those questions. And Malcolm said, "Do I leave money on the table with the super chat?" Thanks. You absolutely can if you want to. There's plenty of, you're gonna have plenty of lineups where you're leaving money on the table.
I got less of it today with the value, and I didn't get as drastic.
Me too, but I'm looking like I have some. There was one you and I did last week or 2 weeks ago where I'm like, "Hey Matt, I have some lineups with 45,000."
Yeah.
I don't remember what game that was, but you remember us doing that? And I'm like, dude, I'm literally leaving 5,100 on the table. This is more like I'm leaving max like 2,000 on the table. Let's see, in like 1,600 here, 1,500.
Yeah, I'm seeing a little bit of those. Like 1K is fine, 1,500 is fine. I wouldn't be going like 3K or something like that.
Yeah. I wouldn't either. Kieran, yeah, no, we love Neil around here, man. But
yeah,
still the best showdown show you're gonna find right here on the Stokastic YouTubes, baby. And thank you to all you guys hanging out with us, by the way. I say it every show. It means a lot that you decide to spend your time with us, be it a Sunday, a Monday morning, or a Thursday, doesn't matter. We appreciate you guys for that. Even you, Bug Boy. But yeah, I can't help but look at this and go, all right, exposures up top, Mahomes, Kelsey, Hunt, Mayfield, Otten, all that. Ryan Miller, dude, I'm fucked on a Ryan Miller. This is so bad. But I do have 29% Butker at flex, so slightly above the field. It's not like I'm getting none of that. Trey Palmer, 25%, Hopkins at 19%. This is just on my last run, so not every lineup, but it still gives us a pretty good indication. And, oh, here it is, Matt. Okay, so 30% Chiefs D. But then once I get to captain, my captain, for those of you, there's still 3 minutes if you're looking to make any adjustments. And this is how we'll close it because I want to know where your captain exposure looks. At the end of the day, it's still just really, really concentrated at the top. Kelsey, Mahomes, Hunt, Mayfield, and then 9% Otten, 6% Miller, which doesn't even really count. And then it's just like 1 or 2% with everybody else.
It's basically the same thing for me. You have a ton of the big three, moderate amount of Otten. Baker's a little higher than him, and then sprinkles like across the board.
Yeah, man. All right.
A lot of 4-2s, 5-1s in my builds. What did you notice with that?
Yeah, a lot of that as well, but not actually, matter of fact, this last run, a lot of 3-3 up top for me.
I have more of that than this morning. This morning I had virtually none of that.
Yeah, well, I think the McMillan news is hugely impactful.
For sure. I agree.
You know? It makes the team worse, but it gives them more value. Not that it makes it like worse. I highly doubt the line moved on Jalen McMillan news, but from a DFS perspective, it definitely has an impact, man.
It definitely does. Jalen McMillan not moving the line.
Yeah. Oh God, it swung through 10 on the Jalen McMillan news.
Now I hope so badly that Jalen McMillan ends up being good, man.
Oh yeah, that'd be crazy. Yeah, if Jalen McMillan was moving lines, I'd be rich.
Have you been playing a lot of Jalen McMillan this year? I've been sprinkling him on the main slate for weeks.
Have you?
Yeah. He'll drop a bomb, break my heart. It's weekly tradition.
So you're telling me here that you're like, well, I'm kind of a pussy when it comes to, taking a stand on a Miller or a Jarrett, but you're playing McMillan on main slates?
I have before. Not like
yeah. I only had 40% McMillan in week 3.
No. Like
certainly
like under, I can't remember, certainly under 5%.
Just a little sprinkle. I get it.
Yeah, I mean, you're considering other guys like Yoshivas down there, and he goes for 0 catches 2 weeks ago or something. Like those are the kind of guys we're playing down there. So why not sprinkle a flashy rookie who might do something? Turns out he didn't, but that was the thought.
Kevin Watson, good luck. Thanks, Laffy. Get the Sudafed. Yeah, man. Sorry, I was trying to contain. Sick? I don't know. Might be allergy. Like I feel okay. Yeah, I feel okay, but I think I have allergies, something like that. I got the MRI back today though for my knee.
Did you tear your ACL?
My ACL, my meniscus, my LCL, and my MCL.
They
want to amputate. No.
What actually happened to you?
No, just dude, I was super happy. It was just a grade 1 tear, minor, like 10% tear or something. So it's like best possible scenario.
So you're playing hockey this week?
No, I'm gonna play next week if we make it to the championship. But
you can't miss the ship.
If I'm not there, we might not. No,
you can't miss the ship.
I wouldn't. I would definitely play. Anyway, appreciate you guys. You are the best. We love you. Follow Matt at Matt_Gajewski, me at Laffy_D. Tomorrow, first look, Ben Rasa and myself, and you and Ben. Some first look college stuff tomorrow on the Odd Shopper channel as well, yeah?
Yeah, great slate. There's a ton going down in the SEC. Definitely it's going to have some playoff implications.
All right. Good luck. Bug Boy, well, you had a grade 1 tear and missed days of work. I don't know why I give you attention. Maybe you should try playing Powder Puff instead of hockey. I didn't miss any work for it. Not because I was hurt. I went to get an MRI. Brother, stick to whatever you do, Bug Boy. We could go collect some ants or whatever the fuck it is you do. All right, we'll see you guys back here soon. Thank you. Have a good night. Good luck. And we'll see you tomorrow morning. Peace.